Armed Services Committee working on the NDAA. The Senate has passed, and the House has passed, and the President signed the Defense Authorization Act every year for, I think, 60 some odd years. Why should that be put first? Obviously, we're in a wartime situation worldwide, competition with two big powers, China, Russia, helping Ukraine, helping Israel. Clearly, this is a huge priority. So my suggestion to the majority leader is, why not bring it up? I think that's a better way for us to be spending our time on something important and necessary than dealing with assistant secretaries of this, that, or the other. Obviously, I'm not the majority leader. I've been both. The majority's better. If I were, we'd be moving to the defense authorization bill.
President Biden's announced border policy is too much, too little, too late. And besides that, it's not having any impact. People are still streaming across our southern border in droves. And it's an indication, again, that this president isn't serious about getting operational control of our southern border. And the American people see him that way. That's why there is skepticism all across the country that this president has any level of seriousness when it comes time to dealing with what is a major crisis, and I would add a national security crisis at our southern border. Two recent examples of that. There was an internal memo that the press obtained that suggested to the Border Patrol officials and directed them, the Biden administration directed them, to allow all single adults from Eastern European countries into our country. Just admit them, send them into the country. And evidence again and proof that catch and release is still the policy of this administration. The other thing they did, last week it was reported, the Biden administration had ceased to process 350,000 asylum cases to adjudicate them, either approve or deny. That's 350,000 people. Again, just you call it mass amnesty, whatever you want to call it, but it's clear indication once again that this president is not serious about the border, and the weakness that he has exhibited on the border is not lost on the American people. J.D. Vance and I have a letter that we sent to the administration demanding answers for those 350,000 people, asylum folks who are here that have basically been just let go into the country. And I'm not expecting an answer right away, but I hope we get an answer and some accountability for that action. It's pretty clear that the only way that we are going to get the southern border under control is to get a new president.
Well, Joe Biden is the president of high prices, and the Democrats are the party of high prices. Prices are out of control, and the Democrats are out of touch. The Democrats want people to believe that the economy is going just fine. Well, try to tell that to somebody who can only afford about half of a grocery cart full of food. Right now, 4 out of 5 Americans say going out for fast food has become a luxury. Go through the drive-thru, you get some burgers and fries and drinks for the family and the kids, it's over $50. Prices are up over 20% since Joe Biden came into the White House, and people are suffering as a result of that. It would cost about $1,000 a month more now to keep up with where they were when Joe Biden came into the White House. People don't have that extra $1,000 a month, so they're falling further behind. This past weekend in Wyoming, I was with our coal miners, our ranchers, and a group of our veterans of foreign war. They are all feeling the squeeze. They're struggling to pay their bills. They're concerned about providing for their families. These are the people who feed us, who fuel us, and who have fought for us. They know what we need to do to alleviate the suffering that they're experiencing under Joe Biden's high prices. It's stop this reckless Washington spending, it's cut these expensive government regulations, and it's unleash American energy. That's exactly what Republicans will do if we win back the Senate and the White House and hold on to the House. Democrats' enduring legacy will be that of the party of high prices. Republicans want to end that legacy and get America back on track come November.
Well, folks, I am really glad that this afternoon we will come together as an Armed Services Committee and engage in the National Defense Authorization Act. It will be a bipartisan event. But as you look around the world, what we see is a world on fire. We saw Joe Biden at the very beginning of his presidency decide to abandon our allies in Afghanistan, and man, things have really gone to heck ever since then. So our allies don't trust us anymore, and certainly our adversaries are emboldened by the weakness that they see coming out of the White House. We have a very, very feeble-minded and willed man that is our commander-in-chief. And hopefully this fall we will see a change with this next election. So again, let's focus on the White House and what their policy has been. So on one hand, you'll hear Joe Biden say out of this side of his mouth, "Hey, Israel, we've got an ironclad commitment to you." And then the doublespeak starts, where it is, "Oh, well, we're not going to provide you the weapons you need." Ha, ha, ha. The next thing, "We're going to sanction Iran." And then over here, "We're not going to enforce them," which means we've got a 5-year high of oil revenues going into Iran, over $80 billion worth that should have been sanctioned. And of course, with Ukraine, he pushed and pushed and pushed Congress to get an aid to Ukraine bill done. Get the Ukraine bill done. And then over here, "Oh, I'm sorry, Ukraine, you can't use these weapons to strike inside of Russia." Folks, I don't know what's going on in this administration other than Joe Biden is so darn weak. Maybe he doesn't really understand what's going on. I have never known a country to win a war by staying in a defensive position. This has got to stop. It's why I am working on an NDAA that strengthens our military and makes us the most lethal fighting force on the face of the planet. And I hope our Democrats join us in this endeavor.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I brought to your attention that the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, portions of the grant program that were provided for in that program, in that bill, in the name of green, were going to organizations. The money's going to organizations that are basically anti-American. I highlighted that Climate Justice Alliance was going to be receiving $50 million and then you find out who are these people. You find out they're anti-police, anti-military, anti-Israel, and a great number of things. So the administration is willing to fund these groups through the EPA. So I said then, and I'll say now, and I was mixed up on the movie, I said follow the money. So we've been following the money in committee ever since in our oversight capacity. And what we have found is that other groups associated with this green grant program, Green Communities, Environmental Justice, we found some more organizations that are either going to be the beneficiary or are going to be the people that say who the beneficiaries are. So I'll highlight these in my handy-dandy chart. New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice tweeted, "The border and concept of citizenship is racist and classist farce." That's their president, thinks that our citizenship is racist. The New York Immigration Coalition has stated on their website all state and local government employees should be prohibited from collaborating with federal immigration authorities. ICE has a racist and abusive agenda, and states should end support for detention and deportation. These are organizations, these two, who are receiving or are going to determine who receives the money from the Green Climate Fund. So several of the speakers in front of me have talked about the Biden and immigration. He puts out this immigration plan, how we're going to stave off this illegal immigration. At the same time, his administration is giving money to anti-immigration enforcement groups. It's hypocrisy at the highest. It's very slack oversight at the least, and it's very dishonest when you talk to the American public about the goals of a green climate fund are being determined by immigration justice and immigration coalition groups.
A few months ago, in fact, around the February timeframe, some high-level individuals from Central Asia came and saw me in my office. They warned us that there were tens of thousands of Central Asians streaming across our southern border over the course of the last year. They were concerned that some of those Central Asians had terror intent. Then just yesterday, the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force and Immigration and Customs Enforcement arrested 8 Tajikistan ISIS members in Los Angeles, New York, and Philadelphia. It used to be JFK was the entry point before Joe Biden was president. They all came through the southern border. This is the same group that on March 22nd of this year attacked the Moscow concert hall, killing 145 innocents and wounding hundreds of others and setting the place on fire. You would think that illegals coming in from Tajikistan might alarm the Biden administration after they saw what happened at the Moscow concert hall about 3 months ago. In fact, one of those that they arrested last night had been detained and then released again at the southern border. Another one had used the Biden design, Homeland Security design, CBP-1 app. The only thing more shocking than our unsecure southern border is that we haven't had a terror attack on our soil yet. Make no mistake, it was Joe Biden who rolled back the successful Trump policies that kept this nation and our southern border much safer. It was Joe Biden who made the border a lot more unsecure. And it was Senate Democrats who enabled him the past 3.5 years. But rest assured it'll be the American people who ultimately hold them accountable come November.
Leader McConnell.
Should we continue the tradition?
We should. Tomorrow you're going to the NRC. First time. You haven't spoken to Trump since December 2020, from what we understand. Do you plan to confront any of the bad blood between the two of you, or any of the issues you had, including over January 6th?
You know, I said 3 years ago, right after the Capitol was attacked, that I would support our nominee, regardless of who it was, including him. I've said earlier this year, I support him. He's earned the nomination by the voters all across the country. And of course, I'll be at the meeting tomorrow.
Leader McConnell.
Alex?
Some of your colleagues are talking about using budget reconciliation next year to plus up defense spending in line with what Roger Wicker's talked about, and also tackling some mandatory spending to help reduce the deficit. What are your thoughts on those ideas?
Well, look, all of that is a very complicated subject. What we do know for sure is the first step is to have an NDAA that reflects the needs of the military now, based upon world conditions that Senator Ernst was talking about, I was talking about. How to achieve that is very complicated. But let me just say the first step is we need to have a Republican president, a Republican House, and a Republican Senate, or there'll be no reconciliation at all. And it is an important tool. We hope to have an opportunity to use it, and we'll find out the first Tuesday in November.
Leader McConnell.